Hello, everyone. Bon dia, benvinguts. Welcome to this second webinar of Barcelona International Community Day. My name is Mariona Roca, and I am a member of the City Promotion team at Barcelona City Council. And let me welcome you on behalf of the City Council who are organizing Barcelona International Community Day, which will take place next Saturday. And also these webinars, we started yesterday, and we have one webinar each day. So just welcome everyone. This session will be recorded, and we will edit it and post it on our YouTube channel. And you can follow us on our social media. I will write in the chat our profiles. Well, so let's start with this webinar, which is called Leadership, Interculturality, and Working from Home. It's about something that it's for some of us, it might be new, for others, not so much, as it is for our panelist today, who is Emma Ginet. She's an expert in human resources, and she had been working in remote and intercultural teams and intercultural groups even before COVID for many years. So yeah, she's an expert in this that some of us are new on this. She worked in the fashion sector for many years, and after some years ago, she founded her own company, People and Organization Shaker, where she advises different companies in agile people and operations, helping them to get closer to their final user through their internal talent, making the most of the diversity of the teams. So welcome again, and I leave you with Emma, who will be leading this webinar. If there is any question that you may have and you would like to ask her, please write it on the chat, and at the end of the session, we will go through them with her. Thank you very much. Emma, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mariona, and thank you, of course, to all of you guys. So thanks for finding a slot in your busy agendas to share and to mingle here in this Zoom. So yeah, definitely. So multicultural and remote is the new black, right? So after the pandemics, it's true that working remote and working in diverse and multicultural teams, maybe it could be quite a reality in some specific companies, but the truth is that after 2020, so let's see that this multicultural, multiculti and remote reality is becoming, of course, our day-to-day in many companies, right? What I am going to share with you today, guys, it's not theoretical information. So it's not, those typical tips that you read everywhere. So in fact, I'm just sharing with you some things that have been working for me during all those years of remote multicultural work. And definitely, so they are not kind of dogmas. So feel free to open debate or feel free to open argumentations, right? Because sharing is caring. So I do not take my sessions as a kind of one-directional masterclass. So feel free to interact with the chat and to interrupt whatever question you might have. If not, as Mariona perfectly said, at the end of the session, we will definitely have time to discuss and to have some Q&As. So I'm just sharing my screen right now, and the title of the session. So to me, it's the power of multicultural and remote teams. And what I'm sharing in that presentation is just some tips, as I was telling you guys, to be used right here, right now. So you will see that nothing is rocket science. I hate when gurus or when supposed professionals are explaining things as if everything was super difficult to embrace or super difficult to adapt, because you will see that at the end we are all human. And it's true that even if at the end of the day we think that multicultural is very related to your origin, or the country you're born, or the religion you practice, or your political approach, or your gender, or whatever. We will say that at the end of the day, we are all different. Even people born in the same place, belonging to the same religion, celebrating the same holidays, being in the same gender, or having a very, let's say, similar background, just for the fact of being, for example, different generations, and this is something that we are living today as well. So just for the fact of being different generations, they belong to different cultures, right? So we are seeing that at the end, it's not about being multicultural. It doesn't depend on where you're born, or on which date you're born, or to which generation do you belong, or which generation do you belong to. At the end, it's everything a matter of perceptions, right, guys? Maybe this image rings a bell. Maybe for some of you, it's not the first time that you see that. But if I'm asking you guys, what do you see here? Probably some of you will see a rabbit first. Some of you will see a duck first. Maybe some of you doesn't see either the rabbit or the duck. And there are people even who can even see a squirrel here in this pic. Does this pic show a rabbit? Yes. Does this pic show a duck? Yes. So it doesn't matter what you see first, because it will all depend on your perception of the image, right? But everything is in there. The same happens with this pic, right? If I'm asking you again, what do you see, guys? So probably some of you will see, okay, a couple of elder people. Some of you will see first maybe the two Mexicans, one of them playing the guitar. Maybe some of you will see that kind of vase, that kind of goblet, right in the center of the image. And again, maybe some of you doesn't see the goblet. Maybe some of you don't see the Mexicans, or some of you do not see the couple of elder people, but it doesn't matter. Everything is in there, and everything is a matter of perception, right? So perceptions are quite determinant for us, because depending on the way we perceive the world, and depending on the way we perceive our environment and our entourage, so we will behave in a specific way. So perceptions are 100% related to us, humans, and are not related to many other external aspects or factors. So diversity and multiculturality happens everywhere, anytime. And this is the important thing to take as a starting point. So when we're talking about multiculturality, so then we're talking about diversity, right? We're all humans, and we are all different. And this is a fact, and this is true, right? Many times I read articles talking about diversity and talking about how to work with diverse teams or multicultural teams. And many times I read the verb ease, right? It's like, well, what are the different ways in which we can ease those differences? Differences are not something to ease. Differences are something to embrace, right? And I really like this picture you see here, guys, about the menu in a cafeteria. Definitely, we all like coffee in different ways. Definitely, some of us do not even like coffee, but tea, or maybe not tea, but cocoa, right? So it's super interesting to say that, well, diversity is something to embrace here and now in all kind of ways and in all kind of expressions. When we are talking about diverse teams or multicultural teams, of course, traits and features are, of course, very diverse. But if I should create kind of 5 big clusters, right, of features to be taken into account, and precisely features in which we can enjoy diversity at its best, so it's those 5 clusters that you see here, right? People are different and diverse in terms of language. So what's the language we use, and definitely how do we use it? People are diverse in terms of tech skills, or how do I approach tech and the main tools that I like to use. Then people are diverse in the way we communicate. And again, this is not a matter of where I am born. This is a matter of if I am a more introvert or extrovert person, or if I am a more rational or a more emotional person, right? So I will have different ways of communicating with my peers, my partners, and people that surrounds me. The fourth cluster, it's going to be values and beliefs. It's true that depending on specific moments of life, so we can have different reference, right? And we can have been going through different vital, and professional moments. And definitely that implies embracing different values and beliefs, right? And this is something that happens many times. It's true that we all as human, we have specific core values and we keep it throughout our life, either professional or private or both. But the truth is that also interests and beliefs, needs might differ depending on the stage we are in our career or in our life. And at the end, something very pragmatical and also linked to the vital or private moment we are in. It's the way we focus schedules, right? So diversity and diverse approaches of schedules. So create also a different perspective when it's about talking about multiculti teams or multidisciplinary teams, right? So all these 5 clusters, think about other clusters that you might consider that I am forgetting. So I will love to hear or read your opinion, guys. But all this information, if you agree, so we are going to break this down in different tips that might be useful in our day-to-day. The first one refers to the language, right? And the first piece of advice, or the first tip I can humbly share is, well, we do not have to be Shakespeare, right? So during my corporate times and right now as an external advisor in companies, I'm used to work in groups with people from all over the globe, right? And therefore, so people whose mother tongue was Chinese, Hindu, English, French, Spanish, German, Italian, and so on. And it's true that I could say 9 out of 10, the main language we choose is English, right? English, let's say, it's the most used language when it's about working in a multicultural team or let's say, in a diverse team. The reality is that a team, the main objective of a team is definitely so bringing results, enjoying that teamwork together so that it can lead to results. So the main objective is not being Shakespeare or writing a book in that sense. And even if, of course, the better you speak, so the better for everyone. So that's for sure. But many times it's not to be obsessed about becoming Shakespeare. Why? Because many times, and this is something that happens, especially when we have native English speaking people and not native English speaking people. So we could see that maybe we could have kind of 2 different paces or 2 different registers of the same language, which is native English and, let's say, not native English. So it's always, again, it's always a good advice to choose that kind of standard English or standard language, because otherwise it could be kind of challenging to understand specific words or specific slang or whatever. Being said this, the reality is that every company, besides the language, has its own glossary or its own slang or its own typical words, right? So it could be, if your company, for example, is German, at the end, I'm sure that you will have specific German words that everyone from every language will embrace. Or if your company is Spanish, no, I remember I spent 16 years working for a fashion Spanish company, for Inditex, for Zara, and there, for example, there were specific words, which was pedido, which is ordering, or camión, which was the truck, the delivery, that were used in Spanish everywhere, right? So you can see our sales associates in Shanghai talking about camión and pedido with a Mandarin accent, or our sales associates in Germany saying the same words with a German accent, right? So this is also part of the diversity, which is, come on, let's agree specific words and let's embrace them. Whatever the accent, which is also a very magical thing about language. Whatever the case, which is super important, and just to make sure that everyone is on the same page, that everyone understands the same, etc. What I do always advise is to make a quick recap at the end of every session, right? Especially if that session is online, which is the remote case. So it's always advisable that the person who is leading the meeting so can challenge or can delegate in someone of the attendants. So a quick catch up or a quick recap of the session, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page and that the messages were clear for everyone. But again, so let's go easy on this, and it's not an exercise of impressing everyone about how fantastic your language skills are, but making everyone familiar, making everyone comfortable, and of course understand each other. So that's the thing regarding the verbal language. Something which is also very interesting, talking about the language, is the non-verbal language. It's true that in some sectors, especially, it's quite usual that in a meeting or in a webinar, people do not connect either camera or microphone, right? Many times, especially microphone, is just to avoid noises and interferences and so on. But the truth is that, and this is a very personal approach, okay, guys? So, but the truth is that I always share with my audiences is like attending to a session incognito, let's say, switching off your camera and switching off your microphone. It's like attending on an offline meeting, a presential meeting, dressed, as an spy, right? With sunglasses, with a fedora hat, with a raincoat, and with some newspapers, right? And in the same way that we will never attend an offline session like this, well, I guess, also turning off your camera, at least, it's not the same with a mic, again, due to the noises and so on, but turning off the camera, you are, let's say, cutting a very important bridge of communication, which is definitely the non-verbal language. It's true, again, that in a moment where maybe, such as right now, in a moment where we are using a language which is not probably our native language, and where people from other nationalities and other realities are connected, so using the power of non-verbal is especially advised. So in my case, I always rather prefer that everyone, I do not care if people are in their pajamas or, or if they are filters or a nice setup or whatever, I do not care about that. To me, it's essential to receive the feedback and to see if people are connected and to see if connected with the message, I mean, and to make sure that what I'm saying and I'm explaining myself from a final user and that they are on the same page. To me, it is essential to perceive camera, right? So I always advise, especially in multicultural teams, and when using language which is not our native speaking language, to have the camera on. So just to make sure, thanks to the body language, that everyone is following the message and that we are all understanding each other. Not only that, from the, let's say, from the personal and from the relational point of view, it's true that one of the most challenging things during remote work, and especially for those companies who weren't used to remote, it has been precisely the onboardings, right? And welcome new people and meeting the newcomers, etc., etc. So precisely when we have the chance of interacting with each other, even if it's only visually in a meeting, so this is a most precious thing, and this is a practice that makes things super easy afterwards when it's about having a deeper knowledge of our peers or of our teammates, and definitely enjoying of something which is 100% human, which is the nonverbal communication. The video, indeed, in the retail, I don't know if some of you guys are working in retail, but video has been a super powerful tool right now in terms of retail. We are talking that in terms of e-commerce, for example, video commerce has been increasing 1,400% its use regarding 2019, precisely because many times when you are enjoying an online shopping, this is super transactional, and most of the time to have a full experience, you really need to interact and to engage visually with the other person who is on the other side of the screen, right? In a moment and to an extent where you can start to interact quite naturally with the other person, even if you haven't screen in the middle, but the only difference is if your camera is on or off, right, guys? So that goes for this point number 2. And point number 2 leads us to point number 3, to the tip number 3, which is the power of asynchronous. What does that mean? So do every single meeting, does it have to be real time? In many companies I'm co-working with, I'm seeing that one of the main challenges of remote teams is that their agendas are, let's say, an eternal succession and flow of meetings, meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, which means that they do not have slots to be productive or to work, let's say, or even to think, plan, or innovate. So something I always advise, and especially also in those teams where they work in different time frames and in different time zones, I always recommend embracing asynchronous. But not only in that case, also teams working in the same city, why not? They might embrace asynchronous as a new way of improve their quality of their time and of their work. Let's think very deep, and in reality, how let's say how crucial it is your presence in all the meetings that you attend during one day. Do you play a starring role in every single meeting, or in some of them, or in most of them, you are there just attending and listening to someone who is sharing information? In that case, that kind of meetings, so they can be perfectly asynchronous, right? So you can record every single meeting in your team, and then you can watch or listen to them as if it was a podcast in another time slot of the day, taking into account that at the end, we all need our own time and our own space for our private life, of course, but also to produce work, right? And to create and to shape and to, well, be active doing other things apart from being on a meeting. So asynchronicity, then, I think it's a very interesting channel to explore, because also many times when you're thinking about leading a team, and especially if you need to be agile, many times it's super challenging agreeing real-time meetings with people who are in totally different time frame zones, right? Or people who have different realities. So from this point of view, it's not about agreeing common schedules for everyone. It's about finding, let's say, using different channels or different tools that we have right here, right now. And every single platform I'm sure that you're using allows the possibility of recording, the same as we are doing with this webinar right here, right now. So use this to your own benefit and to the benefit of your team. Because at the end, if you have more time to be creative, to innovate, and to produce your own work at your own, let's say, using your real managing your own time, definitely it's going to be better for everyone, and at the end, of course, better for the team. So asynchronicity is a very interesting point that leads to point number 4, which is what I call that entrepreneurial approach. What does that mean, entrepreneurial? Of course, everyone knows what an entrepreneur is, yeah? But at the end, what happens with those people who have an entrepreneurial approach, but are not self-employed, but they work for another company? This is what we call the intrapreneurs. So people with drive, people with resilience, people who are very good at self-management, people with initiative, people who think out of the box, etc., right? Every single company wants, or they say they want to have this kind of profiles on board in their team, but it's true that the entrepreneurial approach definitely needs a very specific way of being managed, right? Because if you're an independent, autonomous person, so that enjoys the fact of self-managing your time and enjoys the fact, right, of having this drive and bringing those ideas and working without having here everyone telling them what to do, this is no doubt super good and super convenient in a remote team. But as a team, and in case you are leading that team, we need to work accordingly as a team leaders. So if I am micromanaging, or if I am giving very strict guidelines, or if I am trying to create very strict frameworks, at the end I am not unleashing, using the sticker we have right now in the picture. So I'm not letting that entrepreneurial approach go out. We are not letting it go. So it's then very bad for us as a team leaders, because you cannot work with a remote team if you are not encouraging that entrepreneurial approach in your teams, right? So at the end, if this is something that we have been discovering, the all of us, which is of course, trust is essential when working remote. And trust means that definitely there's a very specific space, and this is a very specific frame where you must leave your team members alone to organize their time, right? So this is very related with this entrepreneurial approach and talking about asynchronicity, right? So that might help that might help your people to have definitely a more, let's say, mature and a more adult perception of how do they manage their time and therefore their work. Let's move to point number 5, and this is very interesting. This is what I call the small talk. What does that mean, small talk? When talking about the offline work, when talking about the office, or when talking about our offline face-to-face work, small talk, casual channels of information are essential, right? In fact, this way of communicating is essential to create the culture in a company. This is something that I always find very funny, which is all those culture workshops, right? Where usually you take a board of directors with an external consultant, and then you create a workshop to define which are the values of the company or the culture of the company. And then you get specific words, those words, you put them on a poster, and then voila, it becomes the culture of the company. In fact, so this is not 100% true, because we are just asking the opinion of the board of directors. Meanwhile, when we are talking about the company has three clear communities, three different communities, which is the strategy. So definitely the ones saying the what do we have to do, the tactics, which are the team deciding how do we do that. And then we have the operations, right? Operations being the ones making things happen, the ones bringing results, right? Usually operations, they are the ones that are called the front line, the first row of people working definitely on the field. It is very interesting to see that every single company has a final user or a final client, who is the person who buys the products and services of this company. And curiously, well, not curiously, but the reality is that that final user is in touch, not with the strategy, not with the tactics, but with the operations. So the operations teams, they are the ones in touch and representing the company towards the final users and the final consumers. So pay attention, something very interesting. If we consider every single coworker working in a company, so the community of internal customers of a company, the biggest percentage of headcounts, we do not find them in the strategy, we do not find them in tactics, we find them in the operations. So operations, they are the core of the culture of a company, just for the fact that this is where the highest percentage is where you can find the highest percentage of internal custom. So culture is not something that you create with the board of directors in a workshop with an external consultant. Culture is what happens every day, what warriors, the way of working, the way of interrelating. So what happens in the day-to-day into the operations, which is where most of the internal clients work. So in these informal channels of information and in this day-to-day relationship, and small talk is a very important part of it, that is the cradle of the culture of a company, not the poster or not the values that you can find in the website of every single company. So when we are talking about how do we create that team spirit, how can we foster that company spirit or that culture? So of course, when remote, we need also to translate or to transfer that small talk. Definitely, it's been very fascinating to see that WhatsApp groups right now, so they have been multiplied per 10. The parallel Teams rooms so are also multiplying. And not only that, so that kind of online team building activities, for example, online cocktails, online wine tasting, online escape rooms, etc., are being a very interesting way of keeping people connected as a kind of after work, because at the end, we do need that small talk to be part of the community. And something very interesting that happens when you work in a team, it's true that at the end, that team also develop their own words or their own slang or their own way of, talking about people. And little by little, so this is creating a very interesting reality, right? And this is creating kind of invisible bonds. That's what the team is. And that reality might happen either online or offline. When I started after 20 years of corporate life, my goodness, I'm getting kind of old. So when I started to work with companies as an external advisor, so to me it was very funny, because at the very beginning, the person of the company that was hiring me introduced me an organizational chart that was customary, right? And they say, okay, Emma, so this is the team you're going to work with in your project. So, and these are the people that you will have, so you will work with. And there was something funny, because if those people even if they were working in the same team, if that team didn't have, it wasn't a community, if there weren't, so the relations, so if there weren't those team bonds, my project didn't work. It was impossible, right? So here I started to realize that organizational charts, so they do not reflect reality, but what really reflects what kind of team is this, is the kind of interrelations or internal behaviors that team have. So, and that was in the pre-pandemic times. So, and in a very National Geographic style, I decided to, well, start to monitor how could I assess which were the real teams beyond the information given by the organizational chart. And in the pre-pandemic times, so I could assess the real teams just checking who were having lunch, who was having lunch with whom, checking the vendors, checking the coffee machines, checking the corridors, who was doing that small talk, checking also in the parking lot, so who was arriving with whom or driving in the same car and whatever. So all this small talk and all this small behavioral, those small relationships were really shaping teams, right? So something interesting to bridge the gap of not only multicultural gaps, cultural gaps that we could have, but also so within teams that might also not be so diverse. The only way to really embrace and understand each other and to know each other. So it's not only about creating so those specific procedures or to giving those specific frameworks, but it's also to fostering, let's say, that small talk, and to also and to allowing. So it's essential to allow in a specific frame and in a specific time where teams can do small talk in order that they could create those invisible bonds that are essential to create community. A company, at the end, it's not its organizational chart. An organizational chart is a map, and the map is not the territory, as we all know. So at the end, we see that a company, it doesn't matter if they work remote or in the same office. It doesn't matter if they work online or if they work offline. A company is what I call the 3 C's. It's community, its culture, and the context this company is. So community, as we were saying, so it's a matter of internal client and external client. So both of them, and also vendors, partners, suppliers. So community shapes the culture. So the company will have the culture, the community determines, not what a workshop determines. And at the end, context is that specific momentum, political, economical, historical, social. The context will also shape the company, right? At the end, an organization is a social agent, and we are not companies. It doesn't matter if they are private or if they are public, big, small, startups, corporations, newly created or from the last century. So they are not kind of satellites in the middle of nowhere. So they are part of society, right? So definitely we cannot pretend that the person who is walking down the street on the 21st century, let's say, when they get into a business or corporate entourage, either if it's online or offline, it becomes someone of the 20th century, right? So super important then, that small talk, just to boost and to reinforce that human side of every single team. And this leads us to the 6th point, which is forget the technodrama. I remember at the very beginning, every one of my clients were in panic and everyone was obsessed about what is better. So do I have to embrace Teams? Do I have to embrace Zoom? Well, maybe Zoom. So from the compliance department, so they do not accept that. And what if we are using also so all those kind of digital workplaces, right? Monday, you have Basecamp, you have Notion, you have, so it was a kind of boom of digital tools right? And there was a little bit of techno drama or techno confusion, right? At the end of the day, so having a good communication and being establishing those bonds, it doesn't matter how diverse your team is. It's not a matter of the software you choose, but about the values you have of the team and all those little interconnections and all that small talk and all that culture that you've been building. So how does it positively impact in your day-to-day? The software you decide, so it's a secondary thing. What does that mean? Also, when we are talking about diversity, we are talking about diverse generations working together. And the reality is that if in our team, we do have baby boomers, yeah, which right here, right now are, let's say, the most senior in the workplace, people who were born between 1946, 1964, more or less, baby boomers, they still prefer the direct phone call or maybe emails, but it's normal. So they were born in the middle of the 20th century, and it's normal that they are born specifically to the phone, right? To the traditional, let's say, phone call. Then you have Generation X, the following generation, born between 64 and 77 or 80s, right? That still, they are not that keen on direct phone calls, but still very attached to the email. Actually, if you guys work for big corporations, probably you will be sick and tired of your emails and your CCs and so on, because usually all the inboxes of everyone working in big corporations, generally speaking, okay? So those inboxes are totally cluttered, and this is a kind of nightmare for many corporate people. And then we have millennials and Gen Zers and Gen Z, Generation Y, millennials and Generation Z, that they prefer so texting, they prefer WhatsApps, they also feel very comfortable in all those Slacks or in all those video messaging platforms such as Chameleon, for example, and that's it, and it's that very natural to them. So the interesting thing also is forgetting technodrama, as I say, and thinking about a reality where everyone can use the tool where they feel better, and therefore they will connect, they will communicate better, and it will be best for everyone in the team. It's true that right now channels or platforms such as Slack, for example, so are very familiar, and or many people are super familiar with Slack, precisely thanks to the pandemics. But remember, kind of 3-4 years ago, when I tried to implement Slack with my clients, especially the corporate ones, so it didn't work. And even if I understood that Slack was great and helped communicate much better than the long emails, CCs, and so on, the kind of user that I did have in my projects they didn't feel comfortable with Slack at all. So here, it's not about thinking, hey, that's my perception of the wall, and this is the best tool for me, because that's going to be hundreds of best tools for everyone. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden we decide to use 20 tools. Well, or maybe we will, I don't know. But just think about the diversity of your team, just to think that if we have a diverse team, it's normal that we do also have diverse channels. And maybe it could be a little bit more complicated at the very beginning, but we will quickly get adapted to this. And at the end, it will be for the greater good. That's going to be a better team understanding, and definitely a better team results in that sense. So a little bit to sum up, and then if you want, so we can also share some questions and whatever. And what we can say is that there's no secret sauce to work efficiently in a multicultural team, of course, because it will depend on the and the personal perception everyone in the team has of the world. So it's going to be silly to create, those standards or to create those labels and thinking that, I don't know, so Swedish people are like this, or Spanish people are like this, or I don't know, Peruvian people are like this, and German people are like this, and people in Nigeria are like that, or people in Bangladesh are like that. So because at the end, we are all diverse, because we are all unique, right? The reality is that the more polyedric the team, the better the results, because diverse teams are able to create tools, products, services, ideas, projects that are also diverse. If we are all the same, or if we all have the same vision or perception of the world, we will create products, tangible or intangible, that will be blindsided as well, right? So they will only have a perspective, or they will only tackle a specific perspective. Meanwhile, the more the merrier, that we say. So the more diverse, the better results, or the more, let's say, polyedrical results we are going to have. Multicultural teams, and this is a fact, are also the most creative teams, precisely because of this, because we have different approaches, different ways of understanding the world, different visions, and of course, it all gets tangible and concretized in specific results that also are a reflection of this. So multicultural, in a way, can be understood as multi-creative. But to embrace this, we need to be aware that at the end, it's all about respecting each one's authenticity, right? So beyond, as I was saying precisely at the beginning, beyond my nationality, or beyond my religion, or beyond the place I'm born, or beyond my political approach, or you name it. So each one of us are unique. The more authentic you can be in your team, and to reach that, so it is essential to work with that psychological safety, right? If I find that if I feel myself psychologically safe to share my ideas, to be who I am, and my team understands my reality and my perception of the world, definitely I will be more authentic. I will be more lined up with who I am, with what I am doing in my work. And at the end, it will be easier. The more aligned I am, the easier it's going to be creative, to be innovative. So everyone is innovative at the end of the day, because we all, as humans, we all have a talent. It doesn't exist people with talent or people without talent. The reality is that they are people who are working in a kind of job or activity which is 100% aligned with their natural intrinsic talents, right? And other people who in their let's say job activity, so they didn't find that match, right? And then those internal talents, they are using it in their private time, in their hobbies, right? So what is essential is that if we really want that remote multicultural team, diverse team, to reach their very version, and definitely to impose a sustainable work in all ways and in all its vision. So it's a fantastic time to embrace diversity. And embracing diversity, it means precisely this. Let everyone be, okay? Let's enjoy how different we are, and at the end, be authentic, because only authentic people will shape authentic teams. And that's all, Mariona, what I have for today. I don't know if maybe we have some questions in our audience.
Thank you, Emma. That was great, really interesting.
Thank you.
I'm checking the chat. There are no specific questions, but there are some fans of Slack.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Noah says it's visually, and that's why younger generations like it, no?
So, yeah, I 100% agree. Right now that I stopped sharing, so I'm having a look and I see here Noah. Slack is visually organized. This is why younger generations like it. CC emails is visually confusing, 100%, 100%. But it's true that what for me might be visually confusing, in my case, I can understand that maybe for other kind of people in my team or in my project team, so maybe they feel more comfortable with this. It's true that maybe at the very beginning it brings, so you have to be bringing those two channels at the same time, but it's also a way of respecting, right, and to keeping everyone on the same page. But I 100% agree with Noah. Yeah, 100%. I see that here people talked about CompuServe, Usenet, fantastic.
Yeah.
And yeah, so at the end it's like this. So the more diverse, so the more the merrier, the more
rich, the richer.
The more diverse, the richer we will be as a team, and the more creative as a team.
Okay. Now you can see on your screens there is a short poll. If you can rate the activity, how do you like it? We will appreciate it.
Very good.
So if there are no more comments or questions, I think we can close the session. You think,
very good,
Emma? If there's anything else you would like to say?
And if not, definitely. So we have social media, and we can hang out there.
yeah, sure. Well, Rita says
thank you.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who attended. Thank you, Emma. Really, it was really nice.
Thank you, my pleasure.
And well, to everyone, I hope to see you on Saturday. People who are in Barcelona, maybe some of our attendees are not in Barcelona because they can be somewhere else. But I invite you to the big gathering for the international community that will be next Saturday. Make sure to get your ticket on the website and see you there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Goodbye.